my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my strange addiction. Hey guys, my name is Iasmina and welcome back to my channel. Yes, what a surprise! I bought more books since my last book haul, which was, I think, quite a few months ago, so all in all, not so bad. So yes, I have a lot of new books to show you guys, and at the end I will also do an unboxing of the July Illumicrate box that I'm also very excited to see what's inside, so stay tuned at the end of the video for that. But yeah, let's go through these piles of books in front of me. So the first pile I'm gonna show you guys is actually some poetry books, and specifically modern poetry books. So I've never been really much into poetry, to be honest. I used to write poetry when I was in high school, but it was never the sort of poetry you would learn in high school, you know. It was really... Actually, I would have probably written what is now called modern poetry back then. Which is to say, really weird stuff. But anyway, I know some of these books have been very popular and I've always just been curious about it. I wanted to know if it was something that was for me or not, because I know opinions are divided on these, and once I show you the books I'm sure you will have heard of them and I'm sure you will understand why it might be divisive. In any case, let's just go through them. So the first book is called The Pillow Thoughts by Courtney Pepinell, and as you can see I have already read this and I put some tabs. Might be good tabs, might be bad tabs. Stay tuned for a video on all of these poetry books, or at least I'll see how much of these books I can fit into one video, but I want to do a whole separate video talking about these modern poetry books and what I thought of them. The next three I haven't yet read, so the next one is The Universe of Us by Lavalier. I don't really know how to pronounce that, but this is a very pretty book. And yeah, obviously all of these are just collections of poetry. But I'm excited to keep going through them and reading them. So the next two are the ones that you probably most likely have heard of or have come across one way or another. So this is Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I don't know how to say it, but this has been one of the most popular modern poetry books out there. It has been everywhere. I've been seeing it everywhere for years, and I believe it's the one that really started the trend of these modern poetry books. If I'm not mistaken, it might have been something completely different, but I know this is the one this is the first one that I kept seeing everywhere, and I was always a little bit curious, but finally, years later, I actually bit the bullet and bought some to try for myself. And then the last one is The Princess Saves Herself in This One by Amanda Lovelace. So yeah, again, this is one that has been everywhere, and I know Amanda, she published 2 more collections since this one, and they have also been very successful, so that will be my first endeavor into modern poetry, and I will update you guys once I get through them all and share my thoughts. So now the next pile of books is somewhat questionable, at least from me, and I will explain why I bought these books. The 2 books are books that I've read in the past, and I want to have a new, fresh perspective on them and just see what my opinions are many years later, more than 10 years later. So the first book in this pile is Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. Yeah. So I read this when it came out, when I was about, I don't know, 13, 14, I don't even know. So I read this and I read about a third of the sequel. I was never a big fan of Twilight. You know, my escapism of choice has always been Harry Potter and fantasy, and Twilight, I enjoyed it at the time. I thought it was interesting because at the time I this sort of concept of, you know, paranormal and werewolves and vampires and things was new to me, and so I thought it was interesting. And it was enjoyable, but I just never really got that into it, and obviously I never finished the sequel just because I guess I got bored. But the reason why I wanted to reread this now is because I had this idea of making a series on my channel reading somewhat questionable books, and just talking about them. I don't want to shame any of these authors in any way, shape or form, you know. Stephenie Meyer built an empire and I will forever admire her for that. I actually enjoyed this book when I read it, so I just really want to see what my opinion is now, you know, more than 10 years later, having read so many more better books, and just read it critically and just, I don't know, it's a bit of fun for me, and I wanted to also make some videos for you guys reading through these books, so that will be the first book in, or one of the books in this series that I will post on my channel at some point, once I obviously read these books. And now the next book is one I have not read ever, and I never really had any intention of reading it because I am totally unfamiliar with the genre, and it's not really a genre that I'm interested in reading. But it's one of these books that just took the world by storm, and everyone's mother has been reading it, and I think you can figure out what book it is. 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. I just want to give it a go and read it critically, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll find it hilarious, hilariously bad. I really don't know, we'll see. I'll make a video about it and share my thoughts. And the third book in this pile I have already read, again, more than 10 years ago, like way more. I think I read this when I was around 11 or 12, which might have been way too young to read this, but I remember my parents bought this book on vacation, and then after they finished it, I just picked it up because I thought it was interesting. And that is Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. Now, I have actually read every single one of Dan Brown's books, and apart from the very last one, the last one being Origin that I read a couple of years ago, I have enjoyed every single one of his books. I never took them too seriously, they were just, you know, entertainment. They are very formulaic, and I think the formula really took its toll on me at this book. Maybe the first books, maybe again, I just read them a really long time ago and my opinions might be different when I reread them now, but I know this one I really, really hated, and the formula of it just started to get on my nerves so much. But you know, when I first read this book and when I read all his other books, I enjoyed them for what they were. But again, this is one of these books that a lot of people really, really don't like, and you know, shame and bash on every single time when it comes to bad literature. And what really is bad literature, you know? And that's kind of what I want to discuss in that series as well, because, you know, it really depends on why you read. I'm not convinced there is such thing as bad literature if the person who is reading it is enjoying it at the time. But that being said, I do again want to reread this and give you my updated thoughts more than 10 years later. I don't even know how many years. I'd like not to think about that very much. Now the next pile of books is one that is a lot more me than any of the books that I've shown you thus far. So yeah, these are just fiction, fantasy, non-fiction. I guess we'll start with the non-fiction book, and that is One Child by Mei Fong, Life, Love and Parenthood in Modern China. I've been meaning to read this book for a very long time because I kept seeing it in the non-fiction section on Book Depository, and it always appealed to me. I think these are 3 separate stories of 3 families who all have one child. Of course, I assume you are aware with the, I guess, law, or I'm not sure if it's an actual law, but obviously China is overpopulated, and so families are advised to only have one child. And yeah, I think these are stories of 3 families. What reading on the back, you know, it sounds like very sort of tragic stories, but really I just picked this up to get a better understanding of this part of the Chinese culture and the Chinese history, and it's just something that really piqued my interest, and I just want to give it a go. It has very good reviews everywhere, and so yeah, I'll let you know what I think of it after I've read it. Next book is a contemporary that I have already read, and that is Queens of Geek by Jen Wild. 3 friends, 2 love stories, 1 convention. Yeah, so I've already read this. This was a very quick and fun read. Again, this is one that I've been meaning to pick up for a very, very long time because, I mean, look at this cover. It's gorgeous. So yeah, this is such an ode to fandom, to geek fandom, and to geeks all around the world. So it's basically three friends who go to a convention, you know, sort of think Comic-Con, but also with YouTubers. One of them is a famous YouTuber who's having a talk and like a show or a panel at this convention, and then her other two friends are just your standard geeks who are just excited about, you know, seeing some of their favorite celebrities and just being surrounded by just geek culture. And this is like one of the best weekends that they could ever think of, and it's told from all of their 3 points of views, and it's also an LGBTQ story, but I will talk more in depth, obviously, in one of my soon-to-be wrap-ups. Soon-to-be? Upcoming wrap-ups. Next up is another contemporary by an author I've never read, but an author who is very, very popular, and that is Sarah Dessen, and this is Saint Anything. This is one of these authors where the name is much, much larger than the actual title of the book, because obviously she is super famous for contemporary, so, you know, if you're a Sarah Dessen fan, you just want a Sarah Dessen book, you don't even necessarily care what the book is about. But in this case I did, because I've never read Sarah Dessen, and this is the one that for whatever reason piqued my interest. I don't actually know much about it. All I've gathered is that it's about a girl who moves into a new family because she could no longer live with her own family or something like that, and then obviously new relationships happen, and I really don't know, guys. I just want to give Sarah Dessen a go, and this is the one that, for whatever reason, obviously I don't know much about it, but I wanted to read it. The next book is a sequel, and this is Traitor to the Throne by Alwyn Hamilton. Now, this is a sequel to Rebel of the Sands that I read quite a few years ago now, and I recently picked up the sequel because it was very cheap on Book Depository, and I've been meaning to continue on with the series. As you can see, the sequel is like almost twice as big as the first book. But the first book, or the series as a whole, is a fantasy series based on Arabic mythology or culture, and it's really, really cool. I really enjoyed the first one when I read it a few years ago, and you know, I kept meaning to continue on with the series, but you know me, I just keep reading new series and like never continuing on with them. But yeah, finally picked this one up. Speaking about sequels, this is actually the third book in a series I've never even read, but it's one series that I've been meaning to read for the longest time, and I found it really cheap in a secondhand bookshop, and that is Fire Study by Maria V. Snyder. So this is a YA fantasy series, and it's one of the oldest ones that I've ever known about, and one that, you know, I've always wanted to read. It just, as with everything, I just never got the chance to pick it up. But like I said, I found this used in a secondhand bookshop, and it was very cheap, and it's really good condition, and so I just decided to pick it up. But obviously now I'll have to buy the first two books in the trilogy to actually get to this one. The next book is also a book that I read many years ago, and then I got rid of the entire series because they were old, battered copies, and I just recently purchased just the first book in the series again, just to have on my shelf, but I might buy at least the second one, and that is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Obviously I've read The Hunger Games, I've read the entire series. I really enjoy The Hunger Games, but I wasn't like a huge fan. I really enjoyed the first book and the second book, but the third book, it is such a staple in YA history, you know, in YA literature. It's really a great book, and I would like to reread it also at some point. The next two books are two fantasy books sent to me by their respective authors, so thank you very much. The first book is called The Unveiled by M.C. Ray. This is an awesome sounding fantasy book that really piqued my attention when I got an email from the author, and I really want to give it a go, and obviously I'll let you guys know what I think of it once I've read it. But it involves elves and an elvish like society that is, I think, protected from the outside world by a sort of veil, and I think there's an event, it's called the Day of Unveiling, when this veil falls off and the city or the culture is obviously in danger of the outside world. And yeah, that's really all I know about it, but really want to give it a go. I'll let you guys know. That rhymed. And the second book sent to me by the author is called Kevin Martinez and the Crimson Knights, A Game of Mirrors by M.A. Torres. Oh, that is very shiny, sorry. There you go, that's the cover. It's a really pretty cover also. And this is more of a middle grade style fantasy, so think more sort of Percy Jackson style fantasy series that again caught my eye. The tagline says, "A group of nerds, a portal to a mystic land, a whole world of trouble." I mean, I don't really think I need to say more than that. That sounds like a bit of awesome fun to me, so I'm looking forward to giving this a go and letting you guys know what I think. And then the final book in this pile is one that I'm really excited to read because it just sounds like something I would love, but you never know. And this is The Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman. And this is described as The Raven Boys meets Stranger Things. The important part there is Stranger Things, even though I love The Raven Boys as well, but Stranger Things. I love me some Stranger Things, and this is supposed to have that creepy small town monster hunting theme, and that's all I know, and that's all I need to know. The final pile of books that I have here is again something that might not interest all of you, but I wanted to show you either way because it might be interesting, and it's a very heavy pile of books. So as you may know, you might have seen my sketchbook tours, but I've been very into drawing and painting the last year or so, and I really love drawing from nature, so like animals and plants and things like that, and I really wanted some reference books that I can just flip through randomly and just pick up a picture of an animal or a plant and just try to draw it or paint it. I think that's a nice exercise, and it's nicer than just like endlessly scrolling on Pinterest or Twitter or something for references. And so I started by scouring my local sort of secondhand bookshops and secondhand shops, and I found a couple of books, and then I also ordered some secondhand books online, and I did buy one new one. So I'll just go through them really quickly. I'm not gonna bore you too much. The first one is really funny. It's in Danish because I live in Denmark, and so a lot of the books that I find in secondhand bookshops are of course Danish books, but this is it's basically what I found in the forest, and it's this guy that, I don't know, I guess went to his local forest and then he drew and wrote about the things that he found, such as bugs and butterflies and bugs. I really like this old sort of illustration style, and I really want to learn to draw it and just to have references to draw from, so I think that one was pretty cool. This is another random one that I found. This is actually, I think, a art book or a mini art book of Assassin's Creed Revelations. I really love the Assassin's Creed series, but this is just like an art book, you know, so like it has some of the designs of the weapons. There was something here about Ezio as well, sort of character designs, and you know, just something to flip through might give me some inspiration for drawing. This is another Danish book. This is Birds in Color. And again, you know, it's just illustrations of birds in color, as the title neatly suggests. So that's that. And then I bought this chunker off of Amazon secondhand. It's Animals of the World, an expert reference guide to 840 amphibians, reptiles, and mammals from every continent. I mean, this is exactly what I was looking for. So somehow I stumbled across this book, but you know, it has literally like almost every animal, and it has a little bit of information about the animal, but I'm mostly again interested in the actual illustrations to just flip through a random one and try to draw. And then I have one called Illustrating Nature, How to Paint and Draw Plants and Animals, which is, you know, exactly what I'm trying to do. This was also bought secondhand, and this is a black and white reference book. And again, you know, it just has a bit of information on like how to draw nature, but again, I'm just in it for the illustrations. And then the one that I bought new is, I'm actually really glad I bought a new because I couldn't find it secondhand, or the price secondhand was almost as expensive as just buying it new, so I just decided to splurge because it is a gorgeous book. And this is Botany for the Artist, an inspirational guide to drawing plants. And this book is gorgeous. I'll see if I can find something to show you, but you know, it just has like huge spreads of just botanical illustration. It also goes through sort of the history of botanical illustration, and it also does teach you a little bit about sort of how to draw plants by understanding, you know, their actual structures and, you know, why they are shaped the way they are and things like that. But it's just such a gorgeous book. So yeah. But then the last thing, thank you for sticking around if you've made it this far, but I'll unbox the July Illumicrate. I've already unboxed one of these on my channel last year. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check that out, but this is the July box, and so let's just go through it quickly. And so the theme for July was It's a Kind of Magic. So I'm excited to see what's inside, but again, I'm just gonna go through it quickly. Okay, first thing I see is another tote bag. Can't get enough of these, honestly. Okay, this is what it looks like. Naomi Novik. Oh, is this? I think this is from RØDE, isn't it? What is there besides people that's worth holding on to? Aw, pretty sure that's from RØDE. So it's a nice tote bag. Then there's a box inside of a box. Ooh. Ooh, that's pretty. The book shaped like a pen holder or something. I guess you could use it for different things, but that's really pretty. It's like a spell book, mini spell book. Based on the Witchland series by Susan Dennard. I love the Witchland. Seems like one of those things that you hang on the wall and maybe you put stuff on it. I'm not entirely sure. Ooh, that's a pin. I love pins. That's from A Discovery of Witches, and it says magic is desire made real. You can see that. That's very pretty. I do not recognize these characters. That's a very nice print. And this is a letter from the author of the book in the box. Again, I wish I knew who that was, but I really don't know who that is. Maybe you guys know. But I assume it's a magnet. And then last thing before the book is this thing. Okay, I think I do know what this is because I read on their website that they had in another one of their boxes they had the other end. It's a bookend. So this would be like the second part, but obviously I don't have the first part. I just have one bookend. But still cool. I'll see if I can put that on my shelf. Okay, and the last part, the most exciting part, is the book itself. And I love that they always wrap them in these little bags. It's really cool. Ooh, this one has green sprayed edges, if you can see that. Sanctuary. Every town has its secrets, is built on them. Sanctuary is built on them. By V.V. James. I've never heard of this book. It's the perfect town to hide a secret. To Detective Maggie Knight, the death of Sanctuary's star quarterback seems to be a tragic accident. Then the rumors start. So it seems to be sort of small town America, secrets, there's a detective involved, and I assume there's some magic involved as well since there's a lot of symbols. And obviously the theme for this month is called It's a Kind of Magic, so I assume there's some paranormal stuff going on in this town, but that sounds really cool. So obviously I'll give it a read and let you guys know what I think because I've never heard about this before, and yeah, I would like to give it a try. So there you have it, guys. That was quite a long video. I apologize. It wasn't actually that many books in retrospect, but you know me, I like to talk a lot. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed seeing all of these new books, and obviously I will try my best to read them and give you guys reviews of them in my wrap-ups and things like that. And obviously I have some special videos reserved for some of them, the ones that I talked about in the beginning. But otherwise, yeah. Thanks so much for watching. I will leave links to all of these books down in the description through Book Depository if you would like to purchase any of these books yourself, or Amazon for that matter. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!